Many times politicians come up to me and they go, hey, Nick, what do I have to do to win? And I actually usually say, I say the exact same thing all the time. A, behave like people would expect you to behave. So I said, if you're a conservative, act like a conservative. If you're a liberal, act like a liberal. Like, act true to the brand of the party that you're part of, right? And then the other thing, and they usually kind of gloss over whenever I say that, but the second thing that I say that usually catches their attention is, can you persuade 1 in 20 voters to switch from your key opponent to you? And they go, yeah, sounds easy. I said, well, congratulations, you just probably won your election. And the thing is that a 1 in 20 voters, that's 5%. So think of that 5% swing. And think of the last federal election that was portrayed as a sweeping, massive victory and kind of creates kind of an impression of certainty. But if I told you that if 1 out of every 20 Canadians decided to switch from Justin Trudeau to Stephen Harper, and then I said, congratulations, Prime Minister Harper, you've just won the election and formed a minority government, would you be surprised? If I told you that in the first round of the presidential election in France, and in the first round of the presidential election in France, there was only a 5% difference between Emmanuel Macron and Jean-Luc Mélenchon. And if you follow French politics, Jean-Luc Mélenchon was also a socialist cabinet minister, except he was at the other end of the spectrum. He self-declared Trotskyite, right? Very far left. There was only 5% between Emmanuel Macron and the fourth place contender. And in between them was Marine Le Pen. So think of an election in the first round in France where if 1 out of every 20 voters had drifted away, actually to any of the other choices, away from Emmanuel Macron, he would not have made it to the second round. He would not have won a sweeping second round victory. His party likely would not have won a significant number of members in the National Assembly because that would have derailed his movement. We could have quite easily have seen a showdown in France after the first round between Marine Le Pen, the far right, and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far left. Even when you look at the Brexit vote, if I told you that if 1 out of every 50 people in the United Kingdom, when they voted, had switched from leave to remain, we would not be having this discussion about whether and how the United Kingdom will be leaving the European Union. And there was only a difference of 1 in 100 voters in the last UK election between Theresa May and Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. So these numbers might sound a little scary, but let's talk about, I'll say, the scariest number in terms of the angry tale. And that's the US presidential election. So Donald Trump won the US presidential election fundamentally in 3 states: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Combined in those 3 states, he won by a margin of 70,000 votes, combined. There's 130 million voters, 130 million voters in that election. So if basically 36,000 people had switched from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton, we would be having President Hillary Clinton, who would have won the Electoral College by the same comfortable margin that Donald Trump won the Electoral College. And in that particular case, that's a shift in the total electorate, if they're in the exact right place at the right time, 1 in 3,333 voters. It puts a spotlight on not just small swings, but also the fact that the Trump win was almost like a statistical fluke. He just happened to have the right voters and the right distribution that allowed him, and the pollsters were right in that election because they predicted the popular vote, but anyone who tried to predict the Electoral College votes was basically wrong. Converting popular support to the Electoral College did not win. And what's interesting when we kind of paste this all together is that what's clear is that whether you're the right, a progressive, or the left, that these types of anti-establishment movements have traction, that we should not dismiss this. There's a media narrative that it's all right-wing crazies. Well, you know what? I don't think they are right-wing crazies. These are people that don't self-identify as right-wing or left-wing. That's all they self-identify as, people that are trying to get ahead and to making a living and are struggling. And they look for any politician that will come forward. That's why politicians like Bernie Sanders, who was left-wing by American standards, perhaps just progressive by Canadian, actually had a significant appeal among many voters.